It's Evan, and I'm here, and I'm stoked, and I'm here with Christopher Ritter. Let's get it! Was that too much?
That can be as much as you want.
Woo! I'm stoked because today, man, we're doing that giveaway we talked about last week, and I'm super stoked to do this. I've been thinking about it all week, and it's just been contained, and I've been bundling it up, just ready to explode, dude. I'm so excited to show people what we got for them today. If you didn't know, this is the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by finding us on YouTube, where you can see my wonderful I Am Knuff sweatshirt, my bologna sandwich hat, and my brand new window right behind me. And you can also support the show by finding us on all major podcasting platforms. You can join our Discord server as well, join the community where we are chit-chatting all the time about Magic the Gathering. And you can also support the show by finding us on Patreon, where you can become an official Pepperhead. And breaking news, there is a new tier on the Patreon. It is the Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead tier. It is $5 a month, and it rolls right into our giveaway, because if you want to enter to win a sealed Zendikar Rising Gift Edition bundle valued at $50, you can do so by getting one free entry by becoming a Pepperhead, by joining the Patreon. You get one free entry just by being a supporter. And then if you join the Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead tier, you get 2 free entries. And if you want to enter without supporting the Patreon, you can do so by finding us on Instagram, following. There will be a link in the description below. But you can take the photo that I'll be posting on Friday, the day this releases, and sharing it on your story. It'll be a photo of me with the bundle, and you'll also get with this giveaway an official Pepperhead can cap and a sticker and 5, one of each. It's just one of each, but it's 5 basic lands, all from Onslaught, Odyssey, and Mercadian Masks. Foils. The prettiest ones I could find in my collection. So this whole giveaway, the value is something like $70. So not bad at all. Super stoked to announce it and happy to be able to do it. I got it out, Ritter. I think we can end the show now. Whew.
Oh, that was a quick one. Just giving out some free crap and getting out the door.
Yeah, man. I mean, when we started this show, what did we say we were going to do? We're going to shill super freaking hard, and that's what I just did. So, that's it. That's the Moxstars podcast. Just kidding. Today we're talking about, the March 11th banned and restricted announcement. We're going to follow up on that. That is one of our pregame actions. And then we're also going to talk about Outlaws at Thunder Junction. The story has begun and some of the lore details. And then if you're curious about any of the set symbols and how the set is going to play out, what products you're going to be able to find relating to that set, we're also going to go over that, because it's all gotten very, very confusing, and it is just good information to have out there. Ritter, last week when you were pondering and we were brainstorming, well, it's a good.
We were preordaining.
Yes, well, that was a step
using
too far.
Our intuition and figuring out fact or fiction.
Yes. Well, it was almost preordained that you would ponder, because in the ban and restriction announcement, in Vintage, Ponder was unbanned. It was unrestricted. Yes.
Okay.
So they've felt that Ponder is no longer a threat to Vintage gameplay, and they have, on the announcement, if you'd seen, their reasoning for it. The only other change we saw no changes, like we said, Commander is a separate like entity, like the rules committee there. So I wasn't sure if we were going to get something alongside it, but it doesn't look like there are going to be any changes. There are no changes to Standard. They feel that they're in a very healthy spot with that. Pioneer as well, even though I really would have liked to see the Wild Growth Walker get banned there. But in Modern,
Has that been problematic for you in gameplay on Arena? Well, do you play Standard on Arena?
no, I haven't been playing Standard, but I have been dabbling in Pioneer at Mox. So it's one of those things where you want to build something creative, but there's now, like, because it is the Wild West, very poor timing for that reference.
It's like Thunder Junction.
Yeah, it's
out
like
there right now in these streets. It's just like Thunder Junction.
It's just like Thunder Junction out here in these streets. And in Pioneer, if you want to build something that's like fun or new, or you think there's really, it's really strong strategy, this Amalia Day, whatever Amalia thing, and the Wild Growth Walker is sort of like taking over. It has turned out to become the most efficient way to one-shot somebody. So, and it's not hard to achieve on turn 2 or 3. So,
okay.
Yeah, it just, you land one and you know the next one's coming on the following turn. So I am wondering if they see that as a gameplay issue at all, or if their eyes are on it. But they said that
Is that kind of like one of those things where like people were super worried about walking ballista Heliod combos when that first dropped, and they're like, well, you can just one-shot people with this, and then it turned out to, you saw it for a few months, and then it's not really something that people care about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Where it's like, then we learn to adapt, we learn how to sideboard, and then they don't win. Their win percentage is much lower after that adjustment.
I'm sure there's tons of interaction in the format that just solves that problem. It's just, are people sideboarding it yet? Are people main decking it yet? Like, are they prepared to deal with it when it happens? Or are they just getting caught unprepared right now?
Right. And it's something that like can easily be dealt with one piece of removal, which is why it's like a glass cannon. It's just, if you're not sitting on that removal or the ability to kill a Wild Growth Walker in that moment, it's like, then you're just screwed. Like, it's very much telegraphed, and it's not hard to see coming. It's just hard to, I guess, you got a mulligan for removal if you're in game 2 and you just lost to it. So, but this is what Wizards of the Coast said about it. They said, recent sets continue to impact the format, with cards printed over the last year appearing in top decks. No More Lies, Deduce, a Meticulous Archive, and Exorius Control. Amalia Benavides Aguirre as the centerpiece of her namesake creature combo deck, which is the Wild Growth Walker, and then a few other things. But the breakout deck of the tournament was a variation on Rakdos Midrange, featuring our old friend Sorin Imperious Bloodlord and his new best friend Vein Ripper. It's they're actually, I guess that is their acknowledgement of it. They acknowledged the problem, which I apparently isn't much of a problem, since Sorin and Vein Ripper are a much more consistent option. So, but there is one other change in the ban and restriction announcement. Violent Outburst is banned in Modern, which, Ritter, have you ever played Teamer Rhinos?
No, I'm familiar with the deck, though. I've heard tell of it.
Yeah, so Violent Outburst is one of the only instant speed Cascade cards in the game. And what it was allowing for was you to basically instant speed go into a Crashing Footfalls. So
yep, gives you 2/4/4 Rhino tokens with trample, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they decided that the speed of the deck, alongside of cards like Fury, and they had to get rid of Fury and up the Beanstalk because it was also helping that deck thrive. They decided that Teamer Rhinos was a little too strong and the win percentage was a little too high, so they banned Violent Outburst, which has led plenty of people to actually move to either Bant variants or go to I think it's Abzan variants. So there's a couple other things, or it's not Abzan, but Jund. So Jund Rhinos is like starting to like become a thing because there's a card called Demonic Dread that is the same mana value as Violent Outburst, but it's a sorcery, and then target creature can't block this turn. And then there's Ardent Plea, which is an enchantment with Cascade that has just Exalted. So it's just they're trying to find the most efficient way to Cascade. They've limited the instant speed version with Violent Outburst, and now we're just going to sort of see how the rest of the format shakes out, if any other decks start rising, and if Rhinos truly does fall out of the meta, maybe it's a step too far and they could find something else to ban.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like healthy attention to the meta, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, I had to take a sip of my crisp Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, of course. We got to get that Dr. Pepper branding in the mix. That's what we're all about.
And I better save how crispy it is with a Pepperhead can cap, just to seal in the freshness. But yeah, I'm excited to see where Modern goes after this. I've had a couple Modern decks in my hands in the past couple months, and Temur Rhinos is one of them. And it always felt like I was able to navigate pretty much every situation, and then also be the aggro when it mattered. So yeah, it's great, and I love that Wizards of the Coast. Go ahead.
You say your thing, then I'll say my thing.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's just great that Wizards of the Coast, even throughout this entire article, for every format, has, outside of Explorer, has written like their reasoning out for it. So it looks as though they're trying to put more thought, since the ban and restriction announcements are now only twice a year instead of 4 times, that they're actually trying to put a little bit more thought into this.
What I wanted to say was that Crashing Footfalls, a card from Modern Horizons 1 originally, right?
Yep.
Is the correct power level for a Modern Horizons card. Like, we've had so many discussions about Modern Horizons sets being format warping in a bad way.
Right.
Crashing Footfalls, a great example of a card that they printed into Modern and works in Modern. Like, because like Temur Rhinos isn't the only deck that's popped up. Like when that card first came out, like there were all those like Living Death variants and other sorts of like, Cascade type decks.
Right.
That all wanted to make use of that card, and it, set some gears in motion for people building new decks and things like that. Verse cards like, all the like the Fury cycle and everything that turned into format warping things.
Yeah, in those, while I think that we sort of underestimated Fury in general when at release, we haven't underestimated it since, but it's like, I think Modern Horizons 2 definitely was their attempt to get, they wanted to obviously get more people involved in Modern and have like that barrier of entry lowered, but all they do when they print new sets that are just like, they're not balanced, or they're not like printed with like that thought of balance in mind, they just warp the market, and it makes it, again, another unapproachable, like the barrier of entry gets even higher, like type format. So yeah, like Crashing Footfalls was
it's a Universes Beyond next season.
Yeah.
With the NFL, Crashing Footballs.
It's always been a card that's been affordable. Like, so Temur Rhinos has been one of the more approachable decks in recent memory, and it's just like Up the Beanstalk obviously like helped that deck tremendously when you're able to like put that out and then evoke a Fury, draw, replace it, draw a card, and then have a ton of removal. So like it seems like they're doing the right things by balancing it just in time for them to outpace the format again with Modern Horizons 3. So fingers crossed that we get more, like you said, like you're honestly like, I really hope that they put thought into not warping Modern out of control, but then, and have to go through and rework the ban and restriction announcements and make an emergency one. But, and while Eternal formats are doomed to die, we all know that. but hopefully it doesn't warp Commander either. We're obviously going to see some very powerful stuff. We're already seeing it with Emrakul. But yeah, fingers crossed Modern Horizons 3 doesn't continue to warp what is already seems to be a dying format. You know what I'm saying? Like the barrier of entry for Modern is already high. Everyone knows that when you go to a Modern event, it's very competitive, and the air is, pretty...
Yeah, I mean, it used to be a sweet spot format where the price and the power level were right for longtime players, and like that's how Modern actually emerged, right? And now it's just like at this point, either just play Legacy or play Standard or Pioneer. Like the sweet spot no longer exists for it, like in terms of the card pool or the amount of money it takes to show up and play competitively.
Yeah, which is where I think Pioneer is now, that where people who've been playing for 2+ years probably have a ton of the cards that are now considered meta in Pioneer, where you can go and you can play constructed without breaking the bank. You can make modifications to your decks ever so slightly with small investments here and there. And that's what Modern was to me when I first started playing, was that's where veterans went to compete. And Standard was where like new players and players who loved the like ever-changing like atmosphere of Standard wanted to compete. So now Pioneer, I think, sort of embodies that community where if you're just buying product, I think you are better off being in Pioneer than you are in Standard, because Standard is just, with how many products are being released, a very tumultuous environment. So, any further thoughts on the ban and restriction announcement?
No. Do you feel like there's anything that was overlooked?
Ooh, I mean, outside of maybe I'm just like a little too inexperienced to really consider the Amalia deck a problem. But that would be like the only thing that maybe me as a player would say is a little bit overlooked. But regardless, let's talk about Thunder Junction, dude. We are looking at a new set that is set in the Wild West. And there have been some interesting news and notes coming out now that the story is being told. We are seeing every day this week, we're going to get more insight into the characters and the cards that are going to be released in this set. As you can see on the screen, if you're on YouTube, I have the first look at Outlaws of Thunder Junction up on the screen, and they're right in our faces is a photo with who I can only assume is Killian, Oko, Vraska, Tiny Bones, and a couple other things. There's obviously the Horned Demon dude, but we are seeing, Killian won in every single set that's come out in the past year. And then we're now starting to, like, as you scroll down, you see some of the artworks that are coming out for the set. You're also going to be, honestly, it's all pretty stunning. I'm pretty impressed with the vibe that they've like set here, that it all does embody that outlaw mentality. Like the armor, the leather, the everything seems to fit. But as the story continues to come out, we're getting some pretty thin lore for this set, because apparently this plane was not inhabited until after the events of March of the Machine. So a completely uninhabited plane that, when all of those events unfolded, Oko, Tiny Bones, Vraska, after being resurrected, came to this plane. All of them collectively said, let's have a frickin' blast and create a Wild Wild West heist type event. So that's as much backdrop as we have, and it seems like a very thin frame to build a story off of, but Wizards of the Coast is going to go ahead and do it anyway. We're getting a ton of characters, a ton of creatures, and and actually one thing I had said, I can't remember if this is off the record or just on the Discord server, but we were talking about some cards from Aftermath and how like that supplementary set had a lot of powerful cards and was actually very healthy for like as a set for standard and for other formats. And with this set, as you notice, like the set symbols, the one with the vault from Sword of Wealth and Power is a supplementary set that we're getting later on. And I don't quite know how this sword fits into the story of Outlaws of Thunder Junction. We're going to figure out as the days go by. But it looks as though that is the structure for marketing that they want to push forward. The one thing I have to say is that when Ritter, you remember when Elish Norn Mother Machines came out?
I do. Yes.
You remember?
Vividly.
Yeah, and we said, wow, 21 different variants of artwork. That's a lot. And one thing that we have here is the minimum number of like artworks we're getting. We're getting there's a new bonus sheet. So there's we talked about like they're calling it the big score with the cage, or no wait, the bonus sheet is the cage and lock set symbol. And this is all coming with Outlaws of Thunder Junction. But then we're getting the wanted posters of cards in the set. We're also getting borderless variants of cards in the set. And we're also getting promo cards, or promo versions of certain cards in the set. So it looks as though Wizards of the Coast has like not quite learned the lesson that they're watering down things a little bit with how many different like artworks and representations of certain cards there are. Like the big score, which is the supplementary set, the set symbol with the vault, is giving Sword of Wealth and Power 3 different printings. So, it seems like a lot to me, but the market might be telling Wizards of the Coast otherwise. Here are the 5 set symbols on the screen. You have the expansion symbol, which is the Outlaws of Thunder Junction hat, cowboy hat, Oko's hat, and then the commander deck symbol, which is a hat on a shield. And then we talked about the vault and the cage with the lock and whatever. So yeah, you can kind of scroll down, see the types of packaging. We had gotten this spoiled for us a few weeks ago, and we sort of talked about, Pate and I talked about the sexy belt buckle and all the covers for the commander decks. But then there's this schedule. So this set is going to... the previews are going to start on March 26th, so not too far away. When this episode releases, in just from recording, we will be almost just a single week away from starting to see like legitimate Thunder Junction spoilers. But if you've been paying attention at all, you know that some of these cards are actually already starting to leak. Ritter, have you seen any of the cards that have like been spoiled by some guy who got his hands on a pre-release pack?
I haven't. No, there's although there is now one or several of those every set for the past, I don't know, a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, I wonder if it's intentional.
Yeah, it seems intentional. Like, where there's smoke, there's fire, and like I'm at the point with Hasbro's and Wizards of the Coast where I am just 110% cynical about everything happening with their products. And how they operate their business. And, it seems like they're probably manipulating the hype cycle.
Totally. Yeah, like
in the modern modernist way, postmodern way.
Yeah. And like they have so much product coming out. There's this obviously a very delicate dance, a very delicate balance to this whole to that, where it's like I feel like they made a mistake with announcing Thunder Junction just before the release of Fallout, because anybody who was excited about Fallout no longer excited about Fallout. They're excited about seeing the next set. So
yeah, you have to manipulate the hype cycle,
Yeah, it makes me wonder if we've actually hit the peak of how much product they can actually pump into our stream of.
Oh, absolutely not. They'll figure out ways to do it in 4D. They absolutely will figure it out.
Yeah, so it's another set that with the story and everything like that, we're starting to see. I don't know. They try to hype it up. Do you remember the days when they used to throw the little story book into the big box or whatever it was called, the fat pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were good days. And I feel like it was a reason to purchase that product. And now that they're doing this, like, tell the story before the set cards are even released, show a little bit of artwork here and there, which, by the way, they showed artwork for their next mythic mono red dragon, which is going to be a scorpion dragon. Yesterday.
Sick.
Yeah, so the dragons are actually like mutated variants. Like in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, it was a dinosaur dragon with the Dracosaur, and this one's going to be a scorpion dragon, which pretty neat stuff. And then there's like this weird alien cacti creature that's gonna be a thing, and I really just along with the story and like keeping up with the artwork. I know it's like sort of tailors to the story. I wish they would just go back to that fat pack thing and just give me a little book or continue writing books.
I mean, this feels like a symptom of the multiverse era in Magic storytelling, where the story essentially doesn't matter. The form doesn't follow function. Like it used to be. It used to be a little more tightly connected, and now what they're pivoting to is like, hey, we want to just explore as many different planes, as many different vibes as we can, and there's no way cohesively as a narrative to make that work or keep this, the story and the lore central to that. So now we just have to present it in a way where the story just matters less. Like I feel like there's always going to be story elements tied to the product because that's the nature of the product. But what they're trying to do is kind of wean the community off of caring about that kind of stuff and just be ripe to be like, hey, here's a different setting. Just buy this regardless of whether or not it makes sense to you.
Yeah, like I remember when planeswalkers would be revealed for a certain set, the question would be like, why are they there? And they had like justified cause and the story behind it to back it up, and like that story would have repercussions down the line. Where
no, I mean, there's the same logic here. Like, why does any IP or any setting exist within the world of Fortnite? Because it's possible, and because someone might want to play with those toys, we'll throw it all in the sandbox.
Yeah, and now we're getting just like our new hero, Killian, just jammed down our throats pretty much at every opportunity. So, man, and now Malcolm from from Commander or Masters or Commander Legends is now appearing in the last two sets at least, and potentially even more moving forward. So with how the multiverse has sort of like shaken up, they're able to write whatever story they want for whatever reason. It doesn't matter what kind of like doesn't matter what kind of cause there is behind it.
The multiverse, as it's played out here, in Magic the Gathering, and a lot of times, like in other settings, the multiverse is just a way to do fanfic within the mainstream of the canon.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish it was erotica, not just this half-assed.
Well, I mean, we'll get there.
Almost.
If Wizards and Hasbro determined there was a way to do that without hurting their ability to market the game to kids, they absolutely would do it.
Yeah, it's I mean, they're almost there with Oko. Like Oko being
they're getting there, they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying to at least like satisfy part of the market with a shirtless Oko in every opportunity, which is going to be my next cosplay. I'm definitely going to try to get some 3D printing done and get that Oko cowboy outfit done up for Magic Con.
There you go.
Oh man, I'm just like scrolling through this story and I see Ral Zarek is there. There's obviously Tiny Bones, Oko, Umezawa. I can't remember if it's Toshiro. Probably not. Anyway, there's a lot going on. They're starting to mingle a lot of different characters from different planes just whenever they want to. Ashiok is apparently in the set, and they're doing a lot. Yep, that's it. They're doing a lot. It's kind of a weird thing, but this is the future of Magic. and
They're doing a lot, and it's a weird thing.
It is a
Story
weird
of
thing.
Magic the Gathering.
All right. Another topic of conversation today. We've been seeing more and more conversation in CDH about, well, what people are coining as mid-range hell. And we're gonna sort of just like ask the question: is it mid-range hell or is it mid-range heaven? And which side of the coin do you land on? Because we've seen the game evolve, and we've obviously seen many new powerful cards find their way into the format, into CDH, and Talion probably being like the biggest one recently outside of like the Lord of the Rings set, where we're seeing Talion in pretty much any build that it can fall. As long as the colors are there, Talion falls into the build because it is such an effective card draw engine that also reduces your opponent's life totals. And as we move forward, we're seeing cards like, since Talion is falling into that, well, Shieldred might as well make the cut. You know, if you're in black, playing Shieldred with how much card draw is happening in the game not only benefits you, bolsters your life total, but it also punishes your opponents for getting too greedy. And with that, we've seen the game slow down because people are investing in, well, higher mana value. We a couple years ago, we had the conversation of saying like, man, this game is like, CDH is so fast, it is so aggressive, turbo reigns supreme. And now we're seeing control variants pop up at the top of the charts with, well, you know, now that we saw like, you can see like Tidesbound Tyrant and Seaborn Muse like in Thrasios builds. You can see Hullbreaker Horror, just, you know, you're running reanimation just for these big like bossy cards, these big bombs, and you also have to have the ability to cast them at some point or the other. So as the games reach into the mid to late turns, you have to be able to continue to battle with other decks at the table. So with that, we have to draw the line whether or not you think it's heaven or you think it's hell. It is, you know, it's hard. You can straddle that line pretty closely. But I feel like there is creating this paradigm in CDH where there have been times recently where I've fallen into pods where there is no blue at all, where decks are just completely hellbent because they're...
Sounds like a utopia to me.
Yeah.
No blue mana at the table.
You'd imagine, right? Until you are like a Naya Stacks deck, like I like to play, and then you're punished because there's no control. Like, there's no control over the game at all. Everything that a lot of my strategies rely on sort of like having a control element at the table. So it sucks when I land at tables with all turbo decks. But without... I mean, everyone says blue players are the worst. I love blue players at the table.
They're a necessary evil.
Yes.
But they are evil.
Yes, and when you show up at a table... And it's like I don't want to say the police, but they are like the table police where they, you know, say yes.
No, they are like the
police.
They are necessary in some situations, but ultimately unpleasant people to be involved with.
There you go. You said it perfectly. Words that I couldn't quite muster. And like now that games are stretching, and I have this article or this post pulled up on Reddit right now on the screen. The Fall Guy getting a free advertisement here. But the question that has sort of procked this conversation is whether or not bribery is good enough in CEDH. Because I would say that about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, you would say that any 5 mana instant or sorcery that's not ad naus would be a waste of a slot. That you can find a better card. But now that creature-based strategies are becoming more upfront and sort of like taking over a lot of tournaments, like as control decks start to reach into the later turns, bribery sounds pretty good. Like it could help.
Yeah, I mean, you can't find a better card than bribery now. Ironically, you need bribery to find the better card, which is going to be a creature in somebody else's deck.
Yeah, and like a lot of times, like I think that in pretty much every deck that I build now, there is something that is 6+ mana. Like, because if you get there, right, it's something that completely warps the game in your favor and breaks parity. So if someone plays Bribery against me, it's likely they're going to get a Vorinclex, Monstrous Raider, or get something even nastier. So it's, like, or if you're stealing from somebody else's deck, they're likely to get like a Nezahal or a Consecrated Sphinx or even that like Hullbreaker Horror that we were talking about. So like there's so much value to be had. The risk involved with Bribery is choosing the right player, and you have to assume that their build has what you're looking for or what you need. And I guess a question is like, you could even go for Dockside if you think that it's going to net positive mana, or like I guess you could say Atlas would love this because he plays Cloud Shift. If you played Bribery for a Dockside, you could just Cloud Shift the Dockside, and then you would net positive mana. But it's one of those things where now the value of cards has, well, mana value sort of has been reflective lately, where Wizards of the Coast for a while was thinking, man, we got to print something at super low value in order to be played competitively. Not the case. Not the case. They finally found that balance where if something is expensive in mana value, that cost is reflective of the ability that's printed on the card in today's game. So like Shieldred. Lovely. It didn't read like it was going to be as powerful as it is, but it freaking warps the game around it. And like, I just think that for me, I think I'm walking closer to the heaven side than I am the hell side. I love when games get into the later turns. I think it gives me a better chance of winning. But I can also see where some people are going to make the argument that it is mid-range hell, because once it's like falling back into the pack in Mario Kart. It's like where now everyone is just bunched up into this like weird chaos storm where there's just like red shells flying around and green shells bouncing off the walls, and you got to be pretty lucky to be able to come out on front or come out on top, because it's, well, everyone gives themselves an opportunity to win past, like, once you get past like turn 5 or 6, every single turn is going to be presenting a win con until the game finally falls to somebody. So Ritter, how do you, if you were playing CDH, do you, like, I know your decks have been more combat focused. You want to get into those later turns, but so I'm guessing you fall more on line with in Heaven, or do you feel like this is?
Yeah, no, I like mid-range. I feel like mid-range is a happy place for the format. Like, mid-range should be the rock that kind of forms the basis of any format, in my opinion.
Sure.
And it's just kind of like, does the format get faster or slower from there? Like, what is better, in the particular meta? Like, how is the meta shifting? But there should always be that's the central point you got to return to, is mid-range. That shows that the format is healthy.
Yeah, like, your deck should have the opportunity, or should have the potential to win on turn 2 or, turn 3. You get the right, like, all the right cards fall to you, and the situation is just that Christmas land type event. But it's like, you should also be able to thrive past that point in the game. Like,
I mean, if a deck is good, it's ready and it's prepared for every possibility. Not every possibility, but is all the reasonable possibilities, right?
Yeah, and like, that's why I think Kenrith in our meta has played so well and has like survived and is so resilient, is one, because Kenrith does everything. Like, there's every ability that you would want, like, pasted to that card, but it survives, and it allows card draw, so you can get card advantage, you can reanimate things, there's loops, there's combos, blah this, blah that. Same with like Sisay, and now, like, I would say, for a long time, this is why Blue Farm was so successful and has posted like such great conversion rates, is because it is also, it's combat focused, but it's also like incredibly fast. So it thrives in mid-range hell, where it can continue to survive because of how much interaction it runs, or how much like card draw exists there, and how many opportunities it gives itself. I would say that like even decks that want to go a little bit faster, like most Dargo builds, there's a lot of resiliency with Dargo due to its cost reduction, like how you can just bring it down to 1 red mana consistently throughout the course of the game allows you to always maintain like a presence at the table and always be a threat to win the game, even at instant speed. So you're right. It does speak to the health of the game because it allows new decks to enter the fray and give themselves a chance. So the more we see of this, I think the more people's opinions will be swayed to it being mid-range heaven over like mid-range hell. I think it's just, we like to tailor our conversation, or like people like to point out the bad before seeing the good. And this is just something that I think we're just working through. It's growing pains, so to speak, with the community now that they're starting to see that mid-range decks are finding more success than turbo decks like Dahada and Rogsai. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And it's every new set. Like I think we've said, we see every set that comes out, we see at least 1 or 2, maybe even 3 cards that join the conversation of, being in the top 300 or being like a card that can contribute to the meta in overall. But it's just going to, I think, it's evolving faster than ever. And I think that people are playing mid-range now to give everything a chance. They want to be trying all these new strategies and seeing what works. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. I'm excited to see where it goes. Anything else to contribute to that, Ritter?
I got nothing.
Nada. Well, I think that's about it for today's show. I think we really kicked some ass, and I'm super stoked for this giveaway. Ritter, I'm actually going to forbid you from entering because I feel like you've got a lot of luck on your side. But
do I'm not sure about that. Cannot confirm these allegations.
This is just a sixth sense I have.
Having luck. Got it.
But if you did forget how to enter, you can do so by going on our Instagram, which there will be a link down in the description below, and you'll see a photo posted on the day this episode releases with me and all the prizes in appearance. And just to remind you, you can win 5 basic lands foil from the Onslaught, Odyssey, and Mercadian masks. You also get a sealed gift edition from Zendikar Rising with all of those super valuable double-faced land cards that are never coming down in price, Malakir Rebirth being one of them. And you also get an official Pepperhead can cap with everything. You can also get a free entry by becoming a supporter of the show on Patreon. And you can also become a super supporter on the Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead tier, and you get 2 free entries. I'll put a link in the description below to the Patreon. And yeah, stay tuned for more Moxstars podcasts as we move forward and for more giveaways. I'm hoping to do one of these every 2 weeks. So, yeah, I'm super stoked. All right, Ritter, let's get the heck out of here.
I'm gone. I'm out of here.
Dude, you're gonna
Bye.
Oh, all right. Bye, dude. See ya. Peace.